Hey guys, back again, another week of racing. Big weekend down in Tampa. I'm going to do a video later this morning with Scott Shapiro looking at the Sam F. Davis. But let's look at this race here. This is the Tampa Bay. It's a grade 3 on the turf for 4-year-olds and up. And I'm going to do it's kind of a combination of handicapping, but more of a technique video of kind of how I'm going to use OptixEQ and look at races. I had a comment earlier that people are that I have information that they don't have, and that's not the case, and that's not the idea with optics. Is we put everything out there. All my handicapping is using optics, so I'm picking this race here because I have a good amount of horses that I don't do the trip notes for, and horses that we just kind of don't have full trip notes on, and how I work with those horses when that scenario comes up. So I'm going to kind of go through the technique on this, and coming back to these, 4 principles of handicapping: pace, class, speed, form. Looking at those 4 factors because it's so important. That's where you have to start your handicapping. And so let's get into it. So starting off with the plot, it's pretty similar. And again, this is early, so even though I have this on morning line, usually we get our color code to kind of tell us who the morning line favorite is. These are early past performances, so we don't have that. And so when I'm doing this early, what I'm going to do is look at the race, and from the plot here, nothing really stands out as far as a morning line favorite. If I had to look at this, and I haven't done my handicapping already, which I've kind of looked at this race a little bit before I hit record, I'd kind of say maybe the 3 would be the favorite, sort of positioned up there. He's got good kick, he's in closing speed, but I mean, really, it's not like I'm looking at that going, wow, it's just a real strong standout favorite. So, kind of have some questions just as far as, there's maybe not necessarily a super strong favorite, so should be some value in here, and of course looks like a race that probably people are going to spread in, so see if we can sort of narrow that down and take out a few horses that just don't belong. So kind of starting with the pace, I'm going to come back around, not really deep dive into pace yet. The one thing that stands out, always start at the top. We have a red plot fit, so just kind of, again, meaning that those horses aren't aligning along the diagonal. They're kind of spotted out there. And then a snowflake contention. So we've got 3 horses in quadrant 1, and then 5 horses that are to the left of the y-axis, but not a lot of E-type horses, and you can even see that here in the RPMs. No E's, no EPs, and then the first horse we're going to see is that 6, which is a P. So, we kind of have this horse, I'll put it on the map first call, on the lead, but that's worth diving into because this isn't a horse that's the horse's normal running style. And so we've got to look at whether that's favorable for this type of horse. Maybe some of these other horses, just kind of through running lines and such, will be sort of E-types, and we'll get into that as we go into the form. So let's get into it. We'll go horse by horse, and starting off with class, and that's kind of what I'm looking for when we have a grade 3 event. Is which horses in here are stakes horses, and which are not, because this is a big difference when you get into stakes races. You're not going to often see, a claiming type horse move up unless, you sort of have a setup scenario or a barn change. There's weird circumstances, but for the most part, not going to happen. And so let's start with the number 1 here. First thing that could just sort of catches my eye is there's a lot of green. We've got a lot of B's, we've got a lot of green keywords. Again, we did this week, kind of went over the impact value of these keywords to show positive ROI, and that's why they're coded in green. And so I'll even close this down a little bit, and we can even deep dive. Let's look at, if I just look at the graded races, right? Let's see if this works. Type in a G. These 4 races are going to pop up, and 2 B's, a B plus, and a C plus. Not much there as far as this race probably worth looking into a little bit more, but didn't really regress a little bit. Not at all, really. Kind of stayed consistent. So every time this horse has run in a graded stake race, has come with a good effort. B plus in a grade 3, so that's already an over the top effort there. And then 2 Bs. Okay, and these are not smaller circuits. I know Delaware. Maybe, but Belmont, Saratoga, Keeneland, that's as tough as competition as you're gonna see. Clear that back out. So again, we have a horse that's super consistent on grades, fits. This horse to me, right off the bat, before I get into anything else, is an absolute contender. One I'm gonna look at. We'll go to the 2. I think maybe this is kind of an easier way to just sort of go through horse by horse, kind of filter the noise a little bit. So we have a horse here that broke its maiden 2 back, but deeper in the running lines, they tried to run this horse in graded stake events. So looking at those 2, we'll start the Arlington Classic over a yielding turf course in the second start. C, drop, shorter, so just, what's the note? Nice clear trip and stretch, but not quickening. Needed to be at the right class level. Decent speed figure in the grade 3. These speed figures are kind of all over the place, so this just kind of looks like an outlier to me. But even still, particularly for 3-year-olds, C plus traffic, so a little bit below. Comes to Keeneland, flow, no finish, no lead, drop. So that's not a positive. Kind of had everything its own way, no lead, drop. Maybe, this horse just kind of over his head. Comes to Tampa, which arguably, maiden special weight at Keeneland to Tampa is probably a drop. B grade there, traffic, rank. Kind of scroll over this extended comment. Again, these Tampa races, I did some notes at Tampa around the NHC, but for the most part, these are not my notes. I know John Doyle's doing them now, so throttle down, found room, much the best, can improve with a rider change. Didn't get a rider change, did improve ever so slightly. 7 points. 85, just kind of going off that other horse, I think he was mid-90s, so aside from this outlier, looks a little bit below, but we'll kind of get into speed figures as we go. Okay. So right there, I would classify the 2 horse as below, just kind of below. Okay, OptixEQ, I hope I'm saying that right. Number 3 horse. Again, we see some green here. I see some graded stake races here, grade 1, grade 2, so facing tougher. Speed figure wise, I kind of see some 90s in there. Grades wise, we have an EX in the Turf Classic. This one I definitely did. I remember this race. Yeah, it was in a very dangerous position and ended up falling. Not a good ride there. Grade 2, B. Grade 3, a B. Grade 1, a B minus, and then a C, and then we can, I don't have this filtered, so, maybe something went a little bit wrong, 105-day layoff, but on class alone, this horse figures. Just this horse would be one I would be given a look at, and I think this is the horse that I thought maybe if I had to guess the morning line going off the plot, this would be the horse. Okay, so again, I would label that horse as a contender. We still have to get into speed figures and pace, but on class and form, speaking of class and form, we have nothing to go off of here. This horse is making its first start in the U.S. From Australia. I did like 3 minutes of Googling to see if I could find a video on this horse, so not a whole lot of research. Didn't find a video. What I did find, though, is I found their kind of past performance, I guess, equivalent, and it just kind of told me, where the horse's running position was. And so this horse, which that's my limited bit of information, mid-pack horse, okay? So, that's important, kind of thinking back to the plot and going like, we don't have an E and EP type, maybe this horse would fit that bill. From that little bit of information, doesn't seem like it. Seems like he likes to race covered up, sit mid-pack. And I looked at this horse a little bit more, and those, has 21 lifetime starts. Didn't seem like any of them were graded stake wins, again, limited research, and earned $76,000 in those 21 career starts. So pretty much blue collar horse. I treat a horse like this the way I would treat a first time starter in a race where I have other horses that have run. If I find that the rest of the field is below, they're just kind of, I see a lot of drop, I see a lot of B minus, a lot of B plus, then I'm looking for a first time starter. So I'd kind of treat this the same way. If I go through this field and I just kind of see, this field is just sort of subpar, it's anyone's race, then I would have no problem throwing in a wild card like this. So far, we're only 4 horses in, and 2 horses kind of seem like contenders, so not necessarily a horse I'm going to give a big look to. I'll go to the number 5. No graded stake races in this horse's career, and not necessarily lightly raced either. So it would seem that they had plenty of chances, been racing, looks like Monmouth primarily, some Pimlico, Laurel, Gulfstream way back. Gulfstream races are good. Those are the ones we have information on. B minus, a B, a BTL traffic close. But just kind of seems class-wise not making that step forward. Did run on the dirt last time in a stake race. Was beaten pretty handily, 15 lengths. But again, that's on dirt. So this is a horse we kind of have to look at from a speed figure standpoint. It does look a little bit soft, but we'll compare that coming up. So assessment there, class-wise, just below. Okay, you're going to see how I can just sort of quickly do this, and I feel pretty confident about that opinion. The number 6, so going back, remembering the plot, this is the horse that potentially could be quote-unquote lone based on the scenario. So looking at the running lines, sort of forwardly placed, I could see it. It does seem to have a little bit of cover. Graded stake-wise has 1, goes a grade 3, second start, Keeneland, off a layoff, wasted, slog, so this horse wasting a lot of energy pre-race, stuff we look at on the track before the race starts. Broke slow, and it got an improve. Very wasted pre-race, wide off the turn in the stretch, has some ability, capable to take a step forward. Came back, missed some more time, Saratoga, gate, so still some issues there, prep, and then seemed to kind of move forward there. It was against the flow, traffic room, there's a grip minus, and let's take a look at that. Leaving a turn, clear rail run, looked like a winner, but then the winner ended up coming back on him, so might have a little bit of hang. So maybe that loan would be kind of good for him. He doesn't have to look at horses. So class-wise, just looks maybe a little bit below. Connection-wise, probably going to take a good amount of money. Got Chad Brown, Jose Ortiz riding, so connections that tend to take a lot of money. Favorable pace scenario, I suppose. We'll sort of dig into that a little bit more. Class-wise, seems to be a question, not a horse I'm going to be taking a super short price on. That much I can tell, but I can't necessarily say below or toss, just no value. We'll go with a no value label. That seems to make sense. All right, Keigan. No shortage of races on this. 202-day layoff. Not crazy about with a horse like this. It's just been super consistent. We can go back here, see if I can filter. We'll go greater than 120 days. Only one other time this horse has raced off a long layoff. Maybe get a better sample. About 0 to 120. Still, looking at these days last, doesn't run off a layoff that much in a long career. So that's a bit of a concern for me. Ran here. It wasn't in a stake race. It was a sprint, so maybe a prep. Again, I don't have the note. Sort of the point of this video is when you have limited information, how do you interpret that? As far as graded stake races, can't really knock. Let's go filter that. seems to show up. He's got a B, B plus. Did seem to kind of go a little bit downhill here. Ran a B and then a B minus and then a C plus. So not quite the direction we'd want to see on a horse like this. From that standpoint, you know, class, obviously I could put him as a contender. He's got a B and a grade 2 and a grade 3. Form would be a question for me. You know, recency, we've got that layoff, and so again, I'd kind of put this horse at no value, but he looks like I don't know, maybe 10-1 morning line type. So I don't know necessarily what the value is. Sort of a question mark on that one, but not exciting. Go to the 8, Bondurant, so lightly raced horse, one graded stake try, had a B, so figures. Lightly raced, again, a lot of green in here. Improves, had some trouble, gallop, close, so this horse is kicking on. So some things to like here. We've got him from a class standpoint, form, you know, shows up with a good race. So it seems like a horse like this that's kind of close, gallop, is going to need some pace to run at. So that's something we're going to have to look at when we get into the plot is, you know, will this set up? Will Hernandez kind of ride him a little bit heads up? Seems like there's only... Let's go to routes. Let's just look at these route races real quick. Yeah, it runs really well on a route. I mean, 3 firsts and then 1 second. So yeah, can't knock that. Looks like another horse that's a contender, lightly raced horse moving forward. And some of these notes, I know I did. This one especially. This is the type of, like, you know, for the most part, as we're looking at these notes, we're really looking for form. We're looking for kind of the, you know, where does this horse fit at the level? Where is he in his form cycle? This type of thing. We don't have the big, sexy notes. Here's one for sure. On debut, this horse 6 furlongs at Kentucky Downs, B minus. You can even see this horse was 9th, beaten 12 lengths. Still got a B minus, paddock plus, gallop, and improve. So that's a note that the playback worked out. This horse won, got a B plus there, scored at 18-1. Those notes, again, they don't come up often. That's another criticism that I've had. You know, I didn't have the big note to give me the long shot. I can't make up notes. They come up when they do, and we'll play them. But for the most part, you really have to kind of dig in and get used to that when you're playing horses, because that's for the most part finding that form cycle and where they fit. All right, we'll move back to the number 9. I see there's a grade stake race in there. Let's see. This horse looks like he's got a lot of races on his career. 2 times, been at the grade stake level, looks a little bit below, looks a little bit outclassed. Again, these are the horses I was kind of talking about. Are they going to take that big move forward? We do have a barn change 3 back, but it doesn't really seem like the horse is, you know, just kind of eyeballing speed figure standpoint. If the horse is like really made that big move forward, he's in form. You know, we've got the move improved, but again, that's a B minus at not a stake level. So I would say a little bit soft as far as class, and then maybe speed figures, you know, are a little bit below. And this is where class comes into play, where you can't really match up necessarily a 91 in an optional claimer to a 91 in a graded stake race. All right, we got one more horse here, and then we'll kind of look at speed figures some. Number 10 horse, Conquest Panthera. A lot of layoff lines on this horse. So we've got to guess this is kind of only the second time in this horse's career he's run back-to-back races without a gap in between. That other time being way back in 2014, coming off a maiden win and then disappeared for 343 days. So that is a concern. Last race was off a 70-day layoff, so not the craziest we've seen from this horse. Ran a B plus and a lot of green, saved, tactics plus, so good ride, close, grit, love that, BTL. Let's look at the extended comment. Hard held along the inside. Jock doing a good job rating his speed. Weighted inside, closing strong along rail. And really dug in. Challenger came, and that horse was closing, not slowing down. So that horse was charging at him, and this horse kept him at bay. Also noted that this was raining 5 minutes to post and raining during the race and quite windy as well. So that's probably not stuff you're going to find in the form. Not ideal conditions. This will just say fast or firm. But yeah, it was raining during the race, raining before, so maybe that has to do with the speed figure. You know, the speed figure looks a little bit soft when we compare to some of the others, but maybe we'll take that into consideration that there was a lot of wind and that there's raining during the race, so visibility issues, and maybe the course got a little bit of rain. Maybe it was actually a good course. We don't know. They just hadn't had time to rate it yet. So that's important information. Again, that's just sort of using my own critical thinking. Maybe that's the thing that people say, information you're privy to, it's there. You just kind of have to put the pieces together on that. So kind of went through the field from a class standpoint. Some horses that seem like they're just below, some horses that are no value, and certainly horses that that kind of rise to the top as far as their class that look like they figure at this field. So let's get into speed figures. Let's look at surface distance at first. Let's just kind of see what we get. See if anybody drops out. Again, the number 1 horse we had is a contender, kind of running those high 80s. The number 2 who we had as below, definitely looks below, 10 points. Number 3, pretty strong. Only horse so far in the 90s. Irish Straight, a little bit below, 86. We can compare to the 1 horse, just kind of right there, but probably we'll see a discrepancy in odds. The number 6, similar to the 1, it's high 80s. The number 7, high 80s, but important to look at. We'll look at the date. He hasn't run this since 2013. I might or might not have had my driver's license then, so it's been a while on that horse. Number 8, low 80s, but only 1 try. Maybe project a little bit going forward. The 9 seems to fit once in a while. He's kind of an in or outer. Good race, bad race. So that's one that I would definitely say, the class is going to be an issue. And we'll scroll down to the 10. Just that one time at Saratoga, again off a long layoff, but upper 80s, that would make that horse a contender. Let's get a little bit more of a sample, see if we're leaving anything out. Kind of making this up as we go. Let's look at routes and distances under 10 furlongs. That'll kind of give us those 8s and 9s. Okay, so now this horse seems to kind of move forward a little bit, bring some upper 90s, making this horse just kind of become more of a contender. A little bit, 2 moves up a little bit, still a little bit below. 3 hangs out. The 5 now, I had him on par with the 1. Now he kind of moves down a little bit. Again, we'll kind of see probably discrepancy in odds. 6 looks a little bit soft. If the 1 is 3-1 and the 6 is 3-1, a little bit soft from speed figures. Maybe the pace advantage would push the 6 up there, just kind of giving a different perspective to look at. The 7, a little bit below. He has those races, but you have to go all the way back to 2014-13 to find him. The 8, see an upper 80 in there. Kind of maybe a horse with a little bit more upside. Definitely not a horse I would say is going to be the favorite. 9, sort of the same, more the same. 10, we have that soft speed figure, but maybe the reason. So, nothing kind of changing from that standpoint. Still looking at the 1, the 3, the 6, 8, and 10, I believe. Okay, so been able to kind of go back to the plot. Clear this out, just get a better picture. So we've eliminated some horses. We're looking at, the 6 from that pace scenario. Figures are a little bit soft, so I wouldn't necessarily single this horse. 3, 10, having some upside off that last race. Again, plot-wise, it's okay. It's favorable where he's positioned, considering the speed rating and the contention. And then the number one. Number one looks like he could get a good trip. If, 3, 10, 2, 7, 6 all tend to be somewhat forwardly placed and taken out of their run style. This horse looks like he's in a great spot to kind of run him down in the stretch. Then the number 8 as well, having some upside. So, been able to take this race and knock it down in half. We've got 5 horses that are contenders. So now we're looking at this pace scenario and just kind of, look at the 10 because we go back to that note. No, a better way, I can pull this up. You're using plot if you just double click on the horse's name, the PPs will show up. So that's kind of, instead of switching back and forth, sometimes that's helpful if you just want to look at something real quick. Hard held inside, Jock doing a good job rating his speed. So from that note, and knowing that this horse is in post 10, this horse, there's a chance that this horse could be more forwardly placed and create a little bit of pace on there. So I wouldn't necessarily think that this horse is going to get a lone scenario. I think that this horse could and probably will, considering considering the post position. We'll put some pressure on this horse, and then you have a horse with some good closing kick, the 3 and the 1. That should be able to, both these guys being circles, should be able to finish if they're within range. Let me see if surface distance moves anything around. Again, this is not as much of a handicapping video where I'm going to give a pick, kind of showing some technique. 3 looks in a good spot. 6 kind of moves down to that quadrant 3. 1 sort of stays the same. I think it's important we look at this stuff because we have 4-year-olds and up, and when you're looking at the plot, you have horses like the 3, like the 7, Kagan. These horses that are, older type horses, looking at the age, that have a little bit, they have more races to their credit. And then you have horses, these 4-year-old horses that are still lightly raced, maybe coming off layoffs as 3-year-olds. So they're going to look a little bit less favorable on the plot. And again, you just have to kind of put those pieces together. So I'm going to end the video here. Again, not necessarily going to give a pick, but you can kind of tell my opinion and horses I'm going to look at as I'm structuring my tickets. Of course, as I'm betting the race, I have this race down to 5 contenders, so it's just going to come to value. And make sure I'm not leaving anything out here. It's coming back around how I use Optix products to look at pace, class, speed, and current form. Alright, recording that video later with Scott Shapiro, looking at the 3-year-old race this week. Will be a good one. Popular race for this weekend. Alright, check back. Thanks again for watching. Encourage comments, follows. Thanks again.